Hey guys, this is Courtney from Lil's Bloom, and today we're going to talk about the 2023 forecast for all of the signs. So, before we dive in, I highly recommend watching for both your rising and sun sign. Sometimes people ask, why your rising sign? And this is because it will determine the house placements. However, over the years, I've also been watching for my sun sign, and this has always been really relevant as well. So I highly recommend that. The other thing I will add is that this is not going to go over all of the details of 2023. That's going to be super overwhelming, take way too long. So today we're really just going to cover these larger kind of cycles and transits happening that will affect you on a soul level, that will kind of direct where your life is going, but maybe not each and every specific event. That's more so what I'll be doing in the moon forecasts. If you guys are interested in learning about what all of the transits are, all of the transits that I would look at that are important for 2023, I created a whole Notion template that you can purchase down below. And I've listed next to each and every transit kind of the energy of what you can expect. So if you want to, for example, choose a really good time to go on a date or to launch something for your business, and you can't really afford to have a full-on reading with me, and you don't really know what the energies are going to be like coming up for your planning for your months ahead, then I highly recommend checking that out. It took me a super long time to create. I went through hand by hand, day by day on the calendar and also on my astrology app, looking at the chart to see what the energy was that day, the major transits, and what we might feel. So I highly recommend taking advantage of that. I'm going to have it at a really, really reasonable price just so that everyone can get their hands on it and know what to expect. And I also included charts for every new and full moon, so you can see all of the aspects themselves. And then you can also kind of follow along with me when I do my weekly forecast with the new and full moons. You'll be able to pull up the chart beforehand, maybe make some predictions if you're learning astrology. And of course, if you want to learn astrology with me, I also have a course, Astrology 101, that I've been adding lots of content to. And it's just a very powerful way to learn about yourself, your purpose, and what's coming up for you in the year. So if you're interested in that and you like the way that I teach astrology or talk about astrology, definitely check that out down below. Soon I'm going to be launching a kind of workshop, webinar style video with you guys where we're going to cover some really important topics that will link back to the astrology course. And that one will be totally free and very, very helpful. So stay tuned for that. Now let's go ahead and jump into all of the rising signs. All right, my beautiful Virgos, this is going to be a really big year for you. I am so excited to talk about it. I've just had a look at your cards and it makes a lot of sense because I'm also a Virgo rising and I feel like it definitely kind of fits where I'm at in my life, and I'm excited to share this information with you guys. So, first of all, we are all going through a major, major shift this year as Pluto, for the first time in, I believe, 15 years, since 2008, if you can do the math, is changing signs and moving into the sign of Aquarius. It is not fully shifting and staying there. It's just going to dip its toe and come back into Capricorn. But from the months of March 23rd to June 11th, we're going to get an experience of this slow-moving, transformational, massive planet shifting into another area of our lives. And it's basically starting this whole other journey on empowerment in a different house or different area of our life. So for you guys, it's been in the sign of Capricorn in your 5th house, which has dealt a lot with your creativity, your sexuality. If you own a business, it has to do with that. Or if you have children, it has to do with that. And it's really about you figuring out what your purpose and expression and unique gifts are. And I always feel like our past life gifts get activated through 5th house transits that are really impactful. And so I think that many of you guys have been going through this long 15-year journey of discovering what those unique gifts are. And now we are going to get a test of Pluto moving into the 6th house for you from March 23rd to June 11th. And during this time, we're going to get an experience of what it's like to completely transform the way that you handle responsibility. How do you handle your health? How do you manage your time? How do you manage your mindset? How do you manage your resources and everything that you are responsible for taking care of? And this could be your job, the way that you see yourself in relation to the world. You might also find yourself in circumstances where you see imbalances in power in your life. And Pluto is always asking us to step into our authentic power. And so if there have been imbalances where you've given your power away to other people, you're going on a larger journey starting this year for those months. And then in January 2024, for the next 20 years, you're going to be exploring these depths in the side of yourself around, where am I giving my power and my energy away? How am I mismanaging my energy, my resources? How can I be more responsible, more dedicated to achieve the things that I want, to be of service to the world in the way that I want? And I think being of service is going to be an aspect of you that completely transforms over this next 2 decades. So that's a very transformative, kind of larger cycle, but Pluto is moving so slow that we are not going to necessarily feel like this moment in time where everything changes. It's not necessarily like that, but it is like a tree growing in the forest. You come back 20 years later and the tree has changed massively. So we can expect our personal growth with Pluto to be like that. It's these really, really big changes over a slow period of time. And it's going to be changing us from the inside out so slowly that we don't recognize that we're a totally different person until we look back at who we used to be. The other transit that is very impactful and a little bit slower this year is Saturn moving into the sign of Pisces. So Saturn stays in a sign for 2.5 years. So it's been in the sign of Aquarius in your 6th house. So it has been challenging you guys in the area of life where Pluto is now moving into. So it has been showing you that you have to work hard and you're not always going to get the fruits of your labor, that there are going to be imbalances in your life and you're just going to have to deal with it. Or you're going to have to figure out what it looks like to be working super, super hard at something and not always get the reward, or not always see like the light at the end of the tunnel. It kind of has a little bit of burnout energy to it. But it's ultimately shaping you up in terms of discipline and responsibility. So Saturn has been sitting in that area of your life, asking you to look very matter-of-factly at what level of responsibility you've been showing up in your life. Do you have a good sleep schedule? Do you have a good food schedule? Are you good with actually doing the things that you say you're going to do? Can people rely on you? Can people trust you? How good are you at working on a team? Those are very common Saturn moving to the 6th house disciplines that ultimately he's kind of whipping you into shape over these past 2.5 years. So it's still going on at the beginning of this year, where you're still kind of getting the last little burst of that. And then Saturn will be moving into your 7th house on March 7th. So this is really going to have you focus a lot on your relationships. How have you shown up in people's lives? How have you kind of spoken about your needs? Who have you been attracting? Do you have some karma to burn off with people? Maybe you could encounter some kind of karmic partner that owes you something, or that you owe them something that you need to work through. Or you could find a soulmate at this time and become very committed to relationships. Regardless, there's a leveling up of responsibility in the area of other people in our lives. Maybe we have a kid or we marry somebody and we realize that we are now responsible for someone else in a very intimate way. And so Saturn in the 7th house is going to take us on that journey for the next 2.5 years, starting in March. You guys also have Jupiter in Aries in your 8th house, and it's going to remain here until May 16th, where it will finally move into Taurus in your 9th house after that. So Jupiter moving through your 8th house is honestly such an exciting time, because the 8th house is where we store so much of our trauma, so much of our issues, so much of our residue of all of our past pain. And so when Jupiter comes in here, he starts to sweep it clean. He starts to take the juice out of the lemon and have us learn and grow from those difficult experiences. What that allows us to do is then ultimately transcend the cycles that we're stuck in. The samsara cycles of every day the same, kind of, I'm going to improve, I'm going to do this. And then a week later, you're back to your old habits. And when Jupiter comes into the 8th house, he helps you see and recognize where you have actually been living on this karmic loop of actually re-traumatizing yourself, or it's looping because you had all this trauma and because there's all these stored beliefs and emotions that haven't really gone anywhere, that haven't really left the body, left the aura. And so when it's already gunked up on us, we just kind of repeat that because that's already the energy that we're embodying. When Jupiter moves to the 8th, he cleans up this area of our life so that we can finally have a different energy and attract a different circumstance and actually maintain a new thought pattern, a new type of action, a new belief system. And this is something that I've really experienced in these last few months. And Jupiter through Aries has totally transformed my life. In many ways, it's having us very fiercely and independently do some deeper soul searching. This is such a good time to see a therapist, to work with the shadow self, to work with the inner child, and again, integrate all these really difficult beliefs and shadows and past experiences that have kind of wreaked havoc over your life. If that's something that you're interested in, definitely email me because I am starting to offer coaching to a select few people based off of their chart and if they're actually ready to receive coaching. So if that's something that you feel like you are so fed up and you are ready to make this massive change and you're at the precipice, then contact me at contact@willisbloom.com. Okay. But it's only going to be there until May 16th. So we have about a half a year about cleaning up of those belief systems, cleaning up about our fears and our inadequacies and our issues around vulnerability. All of those things are going to be worked on. And then it moves into the 9th house where we can start to then alchemize what we just learned and prosper. So it's like, okay, now that I've transformed all these belief systems, I'm so much lighter. I'm so much freer. And it's funny because when I asked, like, what's the energy that you start off this year with versus end, I got butterfly as the very first card to start off this year. So I think many of you guys have already transformed so much of yourself at the start of this year. And by the time May hits, May 16th, when Jupiter moves into your 9th, you're going to see things blow up in a really, really big way. I think that's going to be so exciting because it's like you finally get some payment from all this really hard work you've been doing. And Saturn finally moving into the 7th house as well on March 7th is all about fairness, equality, things being justified in a way, almost like the legal system is the 7th house, contracts. And so the 6th, every house has something that the house before it doesn't have. So 6th house is about unequal circumstance, and Saturn was karmically kind of having you play that out. Then it moves into the 7th, and Jupiter moves into the 9th, and you've transcended these beliefs, and you can now finally optimize for the kind of life that you want. And the universe is finally supporting you for kind of karmic retribution for the inequality you've experienced. So I hope that's making sense. You guys also have the North Node right now in Taurus in the 9th house and Scorpio in the 3rd. So really getting rid with Scorpio in the 3rd of the way that you talk to yourself. Scorpio is about a purging process. The planet Pluto rules this, and Pluto has a lot to do with everything that is hidden underground. So these are like fossil fuels or any other kind of resources like coal that are buried deep within the Earth's surface. So think about that within ourselves. With Scorpio in the 3rd house of our thinking and our communication and also our relating to the world around us, we can understand that there is a purging of the deeply buried thought processes and ways of talking to ourselves and ways of interacting with the world that have emotionally held us back, that have physically held us back, and that have, again, kind of allowed for certain insecurities to predominate. So it's the same type of energy here with the South Node in Scorpio in the 3rd house. And with the Taurus in the 9th house, this journey has been about creating simplicity, stability, inner confidence, internal wealth through a belief system that we've established about ourselves and about the world. And it's also about creating this inner stability as a result of having faith in ourselves and the world and the universe and how the universe supports us, but most of all, how we are able to create something out in the world, to have an adventure out in the world, and it's not going to go wrong. It's going to go right. It's going to be long lasting. It's going to be sustainable. It's going to be nourishing. It's going to be the thing that leads us to our survival. So Taurus in the 9th house, Taurus is a sign around survival. So in the 9th house, it's how do our beliefs about life, our morals, our integrity, our connection with our inner divinity, how does that create a level of stability that then enhances our potential for survival? And so that's really this larger journey that we've been on. And that's going to happen until July 12th. Then after that, the nodes will shift into Aries 8th house, the North Node, and Libra South Node in the second house. So now it's going to start to shift into what are our financial situations. The South Node in Libra in the second house can be a time in which you have to release your old way of valuing things, your old way of charging for things or managing your money. If you've had these kind of outdated perceptions about money and abundance, all of those will come up in this next year and a half, where you're really going to have to start honing in on what it is that you actually want to be like in terms of finances and creating that inner security, and also that really strong sense of self-worth. And you might encounter situations where you realize where those weak foundations are, where you still have those insecurities, where you still don't feel worthy of attracting abundance, where you still overspend when you really mean to be budgeting because you have a different value system than what your actions are reflecting. And with the North Node in Aries in the 8th house, this is going to continue that journey that Jupiter has been cleaning up in the 8th house with. And at this time, Jupiter will also be in the 9th house. So we'll have more of that sense of connection to our faith and optimism that will help the journey with the North Node in the 8th house make more sense and make it a lot easier and a lot lighter. The North Node in the 8th house can bring about challenging experiences in which we are encountered with almost those demons from our past. And sometimes that could mean that we have something that we love that we lose, like a loss of a loved one. This does have a lot to do with inheritance. So if you guys are having family around this age, and that could be an interpretation of that. It does have to deal with also true intimacy. So what are the things that are blocking you from true intimacy? And it will put you in the path of destiny to discover what true intimacy is. And sometimes that means you have to encounter what it isn't, or what's going wrong, or what's blocking you from that, which can sometimes be a little bit challenging. So lots of emotional and psychological remodeling this year, I would say. And I really see that in your cards very, very strongly. Is a lot of psychological shifts for you that is going to make your growth exponential, because Jupiter in the 9th will lead to exponential growth and give you the potential for learning something entirely new, like going back to school, for example, if that's something that you've been interested in. Okay, let me talk more about the astrology, and then I'll come back to the cards and how that relates to everything. So we have had Mars moving through Gemini for a long time now, and it will still be moving through here until March of 2023. And Gemini is your 10th house. So having Mars here is putting an extra emphasis on, what do I really, really want to go after in my career? What do I want to be like relentless with? Mars has this energy of being unstoppable. It's the warrior in us. It's the side of us that wants what it wants when it wants it, and is willing to put in any of the energy and any of the amount of time that it needs to achieve something, as long as that desire is very strong. And so many of us, when Mars has been retrograde, have been analyzing, well, what is it that I actually desire? I don't actually know 100%. But when we enter into 2023, we're going to have an experience where, now that Mars has already been retrograde, we know what we want, and we're committing to it with even more energy and even more dedication than before. And so I think that this is going to be a time where you're going to continue to feel inspiration in your business, or in your career, or in your life goal objectives. And sometimes we can encounter like a little bit of issues with people who are in a little bit of an authority position over us. So if you have a boss or something of this nature, having Mars in the 10th house can lead to this kind of agitation and not necessarily wanting to just like do what everyone says, or having more headbutting occur. So that's also a possibility. Everyone is experiencing Venus retrograde from July 23rd to September 4th in the sign of Leo. This is in your 12th house. So this could be a time when you guys are needing to let go of some aspects of relationships. And Leo is all about how we express ourselves in a really authentic way. I already kind of talked about this with Pluto moving through your 5th house. What are those unique talents? What are those unique gifts? But also, what kind of brings you that childlike joy? What makes you feel like You are just 100% in your essence, shining your light, willing to be seen. So Venus moving through the 12th house here and retrograding will really draw to your attention ways in which you have been fearful of being seen. I think it's going to help you see where you have dimmed your light or hidden your essence or not fully embraced it. And this could be out in the world. This could be internally. This could be in your relationships. But there is some shedding that needs to happen. And there could be just in general a letting go of some Leo qualities that were not authentic to you. So how do I put this? It's like the 12th house is our repressed side, and that's where you have Leo. And so there are ways in which you embody Leo and don't recognize it, and it could be coming out sideways. There are also ways in which Leo just, it might not feel like it's part of fully who you are, unless you have a planet in that sign, of course, that would kind of change things. But it might feel like very distant from you. And so with Venus retrograding here, I think it's going to help you see where you have actually been living in your Leo, but not in a way that you like, and fully embracing and integrating your Leo energy in ways in which you do want to represent this. And Leo, again, is all about living from the heart, being very confident, being seen, taking up space, energy, being the performer, showing off your gifts. Like, that's all Leo. And that, as a Virgo rising, is not something that we normally gravitate towards. And so you'll start to kind of see areas of your life where maybe you have been doing that and haven't, and learn how to balance it in a healthier way. Venus retrograde is all about changing up our relationships and our value system. So that's in general what's going to happen. Lastly, or second to last, January 22nd to April 21st, all planets will be direct. So this is a time in which we have the most momentum. So definitely plan things for this, start new things at this time. It is a positive time to make forward movement. Lastly, with the astrology, then we'll move on to the tarot and how it applies. We have 4 eclipses happening in the sign of Aries, Scorpio, Libra, and Taurus. So April 20th, we have a solar eclipse in Aries in the 8th house. So this could feel like a really, really big shedding process that ultimately gives you a lot more confidence, because a solar eclipse is helping us initiate something, helping us see some external changes in our lives. So all of this shedding, all of this kind of looking at our own thought processes and how it's been holding us back is going to start to pay off around this time. We're going to start to feel like, oh, that is what that was doing. I'm ready to step out of that. I'm ready to step out of that role, that feeling of insignificance or insecurity. And so April 20th is going to be a really, really powerful experience for a lot of us. May 5th, we have a lunar eclipse in Scorpio in the 3rd house. Again, continuing to shed the way that we interact and think, interact with others, think about things, talk about things. And if you have any siblings, this could impact your siblings as well. It could indicate just general endings. Lunar eclipses are about endings, sheddings, realizations, deeper kind of illuminations of the darkness. October 15th, we have a solar eclipse in Libra in our 2nd house. This could be a big time in which you guys could gain more money, for example. This is a south node here, though, so there's something that you have to let go to receive that money. There's something that you have to understand and process about the past to embrace this new experience. So that could mean that you suddenly are doing things differently, and as a result, you get a lot more money. October 28th, lunar eclipse, Taurus 9th house. This is a last shedding of a belief. So maybe you do get more money on the 14th, and then all of a sudden you see yourself as a different person, or something changes in terms of your self-worth and your value, and all of a sudden you're approaching life from a totally different vanity point. And that is really, really what I'm seeing in your cards here. So let's go ahead and talk about those and wrap up. So you guys are starting off the year as a butterfly, lots of transformative energy that you're already coming into the year with. You have the Ace of Wands and the 10 of Cups. So I feel like you guys are coming into the year with some soul-aligned activity. So it's either a relationship, a career purpose, a thing that you want to achieve. It's something that feels very emotionally fulfilling and inspirational as well. The Ace of Wands feels like this very, very exciting kind of courageous leap forward that you want to take. But it's also followed by the 8 of Swords and 9 of Swords. So how in the world are we going to get this when we are having also crippling self-doubt? So there's part of you that really, really wants this new thing. And I think that you've transformed yourself in a really big way. But as we move into the year, because you have so much 8th house activation, you are going to encounter the shadows. You are going to encounter the parts of yourself that is uncertain and unworthy and feels like it's not going to be possible to achieve this really big, exciting, magnificent relationship or goal or whatever it is. But with the 10 of Swords following it, we can see clearly that this has a definitive ending in your life where you no longer return to this way of thinking. You are completely stopping this version of yourself and of your life and are transitioning into a new one. And after that, we have the Magician, which is about massive powers of manifestation. The Magician indicates that once you start manifesting something, your perspective about yourself and about the world changes. So I believe that you initially stop this level of self-doubt and anxiety. And then once you start manifesting, you see yourself as a completely different person and you see the world as a completely different place because now it feels like anything is possible. And that's how it ends with the Page of Swords, which does have this feeling of kind of a playground. Like the world is our oyster. And there is a level of intuition and curiosity and exploring ideas that I think you're going to end the year off with. So I feel like you guys are going to have maybe multiple ventures going on. With the Page of Swords, I feel like in many ways, you guys have the opportunity to act on new ideas that can arise. There's a feeling that there are many, many avenues for you that are open this year. And yes, we are in a North Node Taurus year for half of the year. So there is still a focus on simplicity and being intentional. However, I think there is a way to streamline even multiple avenues of interest. With the Gemini midheaven, you guys do have with Mars and is it Gemini midheaven? Regardless, with Gemini midheaven, you guys have Gemini. Okay, sorry. You guys have multiple interests, and so you are meant to pursue those this year, but in a very dedicated and concentrated and focused way. With the beaver and the octopus, this is not flailing around chaotic energy. This is, I'm going to give 110% into multiple avenues of my life and make sure that I show up and work super, super, super hard. And as a result, I think that you guys are going to have this really big breakthrough because I pulled this breakthrough card. And you'll be a lot closer to achieving that 10 of Cups moment where you did something on a really massive scale to improve yourself and improve your life. And it leads to some kind of mental breakthrough, which allows you to release so much energy around what is possible for you. And I think that you guys are going to find so much healing this year around your mental and emotional state, because I think you're just learning how to nurture yourself, give yourself that love, find the support and the love everywhere around you, feeling grateful, seeing that in those that you love. And I feel like it's ultimately going to lead you to more abundance. The last card I have is the Teacher card. And so many of you guys, when Jupiter moves into the 9th house, might become teachers of some craft. You might learn from a teacher or find a mentor at that time, depending on what phase you're at in your journey. But this is definitely in the role model or in the mode of thinking of, how can I share or learn more wisdom in this lifetime? So that's what I'm seeing for you. I hope it resonates and I hope you enjoy this next year. Before you hop off, if you want to get a reading from me, check me out at willowsboom.com. I also am teaching astrology, so definitely check out my course, Astrology 101. It's very, very helpful. If you guys want to see the forecast all written out, I have a Notion template which has all of the transits for each of the days, and I've written out the energy for what you can expect. So like Venus sextile Neptune, what energy does that have? Is it like a sexy day, a breakthrough day, a mad day? You know, what does that look like? So if you want to plan for the new year, definitely check that out in the description box down below. And thank you guys so much for staying tuned. Bye.